a super, super program. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance, Larry. Hang in there.
I'm going to sit down if I have to sit down.
We got a great program here. We're going to get you some updates on what's happening on the state and national level with CAR, NAR. We're going to give you an MLS update. There's lots of new stuff happening there, and our own Quincy Virgilio is going to be doing that update. We have representatives from the city of San Jose, Santa Clara, and Gilroy to let you know what's happening in the housing market. Touch our hearts a little bit today. We got a great video from just one of the functions that we do as a foundation. And our foundation is something that you support through your dollar contributions and through your volunteer time. And I think you're going to be impressed when you see it. So, like I said, we have a big show, so we're going to get things rolling right away. I want to introduce our 2014 President, Myron Monroe.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started here, but before we do the pledge, I just would like to say that as we stand and pledge allegiance to our great country with the flag, let's keep in mind all those great servicemen who have done so much and given so much that we have the right to be here today. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I got a few announcements here. A couple of upcoming events for us that we have coming is we have a golf tournament on June 10th. This is the foundation event. We have some sign-ups for those people who are golfers. Even if you're not, it's still a fun event to get out there and just hit a ball around on the green. So I got Gustavo here, somewhere right here. If you'd like one of these to fill out for some, or even just come for dinner, we got dinners, all kinds of stuff. There's lots of fun, lots of prizes, awards, all kinds of great stuff. So we're going to have that. He's available here for you. We'll take those and get you going on that. The seats are filling fast, or of course they're filling fast. There's not a lot of space left, but you really want to get in there and have a lot of fun with that. Our next thing we have coming up is on July 10th. We have our annual membership appreciation barbecue. It's free for all of you guys. This year's going to be a little different. We're going to actually have it catered, so all of us really need our board directors, cardboard hamburgers and hot dogs. This is actually really good stuff this time. So I encourage you all to come and have a great time with it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll be out there mixing and mixing, and we really appreciate you as members and what you do and what we're able to do for you. So. And then we have another event that's coming up on August 7th. It's our global event. We're putting it together right now. It's going to be the first one that we've had, and it'll be a lot of fun with more details to come on that a little bit later. Next, I'd like to acknowledge all of our sponsors that are here. And really, without our sponsors, these kind of events are very difficult for us to be able to put on and make work. So we got Off-Price Carpets. They've been a very strong, loyal supporter of this association and our members for a long time. They do a great job, by the way. You need carpenters, you guys to go to. Prices are awesome. They're they do a great job. MLS listings, we got them here. I think I saw Ira here, and there she is over there, and Wells Fargo. You couldn't sell houses without these guys. You know? They have all the money. So thank you for being here. I'm going to steal just one little piece of Barbara's thunder. So as you know, our organization is very big on political activism. We like to get out there and really pay attention to the issues that affect home ownership, property rights, and those types of things. In fact, when we were in Sacramento this last April, there was a big issue. There was a bill that was on the floor that was going to be coming for a vote. It was the Ellis Act. It's out of San Francisco. It's really one that really truly hits at the heart of our property rights and property rights of owners and those that want to rent property or not rent property or get out of the rental business, so to speak. So I'm happy to report that actually went for a vote yesterday and it failed, which was exactly what we wanted. So at least some of our legislators, they do listen to us. What we do does work. We do make a difference. And next year when we do the next Leg Day, I would encourage as many of you to get up there. It's a great event, and it really gives you an opportunity to see how the politics of things work and what we do and how we really kind of keep things going in a great way for our clients and even property owners who we may never know. We're just helping them all. Let's see here. The next one, we have some presentations to make. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to call your names, and this is a recognition of members who have been members of our associations for a significant period of time. So I'm going to start off with members that have been a member for 25 years. And Neil, are the check marks here, or everyone that is there? Everyone that's checked, or everyone that's not checked? Checked. Okay. So Wyona Morris. Winona. Okay, sorry, Winona. 25 years with our association. Russell Padilla. Another 25 years. Yeah. We'll have you guys all stay up here and we'll get I gotta get in the picture too. So. Right. The next one is 30 years with our association. We have Han Lee. And Pauline Martinez. Okay, we're getting up there. 35 years. Laureen Hansen. And this, our next one, don't let the small size fool you. This guy knows his stuff. 40 years with our association. And I'll tell you, this guy's dedicated his life to this association and organized real estate. Last year's president, Carl San Miguel.
All right, can we squeeze in just a little bit? All right.
Oh, 35 years. Ron Farside, right here.
All right, on the count of 3, we're going to take a photo. 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to take one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, guys. Congratulations. Okay, next on our list, I'm going to call up another, before we do that, I just would like to recognize all of our past presidents of SCORE here. So those of you, I don't have a list of who you are, but I know Quincy, Barbara, Mike's probably here. If you could just stand up, these are the guys that really stepped up, guys and gals that stepped up and did a lot of stuff to really keep this thing moving. With that, I'm going to bring up Barbara Lamberis, who's going to give us our update from our CAR meetings that we had back in April.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to sort of speed through this because we have a lot to do this morning and a great panel for you. So I'm just going to hit the highlights, and then at the end, I'll give you a way to find out more information about some of these things if you are interested in pursuing it a little further. So, how many of you went to Sacramento? Good. So some of this is going to be a little bit of a recap for you, but let's start with homeownership housing. This is something that CAR is favoring, and it's Senate Bill 1026, being brought forward by VDAC. And it would require a homeowner association in a community interest development prior to initiating a foreclosure proceeding for delinquent assessment. So if someone is delinquent on their homeowner dues and the association wants to institute an action, they would have to post a copy of the notice on the unit, mail via first-class mail copies of the notice to all the known addresses of the owner, and post the notice in a newspaper of general circulation once a week for 3 consecutive weeks. And all of that must be done before initiating foreclosure proceedings. So that's a bill that CAR is favoring, and hopefully that one will go through. Regarding investment housing, those of you that work with investors, CAR is not in favor of Senate Bill 1260, which is being brought forward by DeSaulnier. This would require all new and substantially rehabilitated units, which are within what is now being called an infrastructure finance district. Remember the redevelopment areas that we used to have? Now they're being termed infrastructure finance districts. These units, new and substantially rehabilitated, would have to be available to affordable, low, and moderate income households for 55 years for rental housing and 45 years for owner-occupied. So you can see why CAR is not in favor of this, and it's something that's being watched pretty closely. The legislative committee, how many of you have voted absentee already? Well, a good substantial portion. How many are going to the polls? I hope all the rest of the hands are coming up because we really do want everybody to vote this time. Proposition 41 is an issue that was very hotly debated on the CAR floor. This is a veterans bond, a revision of the Veterans Bond Act. And I'm just going to give you a couple points on this, and then you will decide individually. CAR decided to let each individual realtor vote their conscience on this. And what it did was there were $900 million set aside through CalVet to be given out as loans to vets so that they could purchase homes. What this bond act is intended to do is to take $600 million of that money out of CalVet and put into a separate fund that would be governmentally administered, and the money would be handed out in grants to builders and developers who would be developing rental housing only for vets. It would take all that money and put it somewhere where they could not access it to get loans to purchase. So it would leave $300 million in the fund for loans. It would take $600 million out. The other point that you need to consider on this is that this would be not repaid as it would be if it would be made into loans, because the vets would then ultimately be repaying the money into the fund, and it would be perpetuating. If $600 million of this is taken out and put into a separate fund, probably the money is not going to be repaid. And if the investors demand repayment for the money, it would come out of general funds, which would mean all of us as taxpayers would be responsible for paying that money back. Yes? Well, it's intended to provide housing for veterans, whether they are homeless or not. So but the housing is only rental. It doesn't bring veterans into the population as buyers. So be sure to keep your eye out on Proposition 41 on your ballot, and that should give you enough information to figure out which way you're going to vote. Professional standards. CAR is keeping records of violations for 7 years. But the associations are not standardized in that practice. Some keep for 3 years, some keep for 5 years. Very few at this point are keeping records for 7 years. And if a member of an association violates the code of ethics and is penalized, then goes to another association and applies for membership, if the records are only kept by the primary association for 3 years and it's 4 years later and it was an egregious violation, but there's no records anymore, the next association has nothing to go on to figure out whether or not they want to take that person as a member. So CAR is trying to get the associations to standardize for a 7-year keep of the records. How many of you are aware that the WPA form is being removed from the CAR library and also from the contract? A fair amount, good, but some of you don't know this. It's been determined that because lenders are flagging everything on the contract now, everything that's checked, any form that's included, triggers another delay or another investigation into whether or not the transaction should close, CAR and the directors have decided that it's better to remove the WPA language from the purchase contract and to take the form out of the library entirely so that there is no ability for any realtor to include it in as an addendum to the contract. So in November, when the new purchase agreement comes out, you will see that that language and section has been removed entirely. The wood pest addendum, the termite addendum. Okay, and if you have any questions on that in particular, you can go to the CAR site and put in WPA addendum in the search bar, and you'll get a whole section of information and comments from members across the state as to what they thought about it, why they understand that it's a good thing to do, et cetera, et cetera. And if you have further questions about the legality of any of your contracts that may include language about the termite problem in the future, you should call the legal hotline and ask them what you can say and what you can't say, and they'll be able to help you. Okay, private transfer fees, which CAR is usually not in favor of, fights against, et cetera, because they are really bad for property rights and homeowners. CAR is sponsoring legislation to amend a statute that would require private transfer fees to be recorded so that transfer fees whose payment is not triggered by a change in ownership or that is not based on sales price are still covered by the statute. We want to know, and homeowners should know, whenever there's a private transfer fee. And sometimes private transfer fees are attached to a property when it's not even in the sale process, and you only find out later after the fee has already been attached to the property. So any private transfer fee would be covered by this statute and must be disclosed. And finally, how many of you work on a team of any kind with a team name? Okay. The team names are being addressed by CAR now because sometimes team names do not give the public enough information on where the team is or what brokerage the team belongs to or how they can find the members of the team if they have questions or issues with a transaction. So there are a number of rules that are being considered and legislated, sponsored legislation that are coming soon to regulate the way team names are going to be displayed on any marketing material whatsoever, and the necessity to include the brokerage, have the brokerage be in print that is as large as the team name. They're trying to clear up for the public any misconceptions about what the team is and where it operates from. So you'll see that start to filter down if the legislation passes. It has to do with fictitious business names. It has to do with the broker being able to allow the team to use a particular kind of fictitious business name. So just keep your eye out for those. And then I thought I would give you a couple little tidbits about the risk management from the Risk Management Forum at CAR. Smoke detectors. You all know that now the carbon monoxide and the smoke detectors are mandated, but by July of this year, July 1st of this year, smoke detectors must have the non-removable 10-year battery. If you have old smoke detectors, you can continue to use, your sellers can continue to use them until the battery runs out, and then they have to be replaced with the new ones that have the 10-year non-removable battery. By July 1st of next year, all smoke detectors must have the non-removable batteries. And if you have old ones, they must be replaced immediately. And by January 1st of 2016, any smoke detector that exists in a property must be the non-removable 10-year battery. Do you need something? Oh, okay. How many of you get marketing calls? Everybody's hand should be going up. We should all be jumping up and down. Right now, there is, robocalls are illegal from companies even if you've had prior business with them. So if people are calling you that you don't know, you can report them. If people are calling you that you do know, you can report them, even if you've had prior business with them. So robocalling as it is now illegal, and if you want to do something about it, you can. So be careful when you're calling, if you're cold calling, or even if you're warm calling. Make sure that somehow you've got permission from the people that you're calling to call them. And let me see, was there anything else? Yes, yes.
Do you have an agency number or anything for that?
I don't have an but you can look up online the Do Not Call list. That should get you started. Okay, yes.
Like when you do like automatic
Right. Right. Yeah.
What's the question?
What was the question?
Does this apply to, yeah, it's automatic dialing,
computer dialing.
but it also applies, for instance, if you're getting calls from Zillow that are not automatic, that are people actually calling you. When you answer the phone, it's an actual person. You can report them as well. It's not just the automatic. Mostly because if you don't want to receive those calls, you should take your name off their list immediately, and they will take your name off the list immediately if you request that in the phone call.
Non-profit still excluded, non-profit political?
Yeah. Nonprofit and political, you can't do anything about, unfortunately. And finally, there was a session at CAR that 4 auction companies were invited. Have any of you had dealings with the auction companies? Okay. 4 auction companies were invited. Only one showed up, and that was auction.com. The guy was really on the hot seat because nobody likes what's going on with the auctions. But I really have to read you something that he said. Let me see if I can find it. First of all, you all know what shill bidding is. Shill bidding is when bidding is bid up by either a person or a computer system, so that the price of the property is continually bid up, even if it's not really a person that's doing it. And he said that the contract allows shill bidding, and auction.com does bid up on specific properties. For example, if the buyer bids too low, auction.com tries to increase the offer by at least 10%.
That's up to the reserve price.
Right, up to the reserve price that has been set by either the bank or the owner of the property. And when asked how auction.com could ever take care of the client the way a realtor takes care of the client, he says, it's like buying a car. Buy a car online, show up at the dealership, give a check to the dealership, they give you the key, there's no mention of taking care of the client, and away you go. And that's the model that auction.com is working towards. So I'm sure that you've been watching the fact that there are a lot of auction companies now. There are more and more and more. And really, there's a lot of people that think that this is the biggest threat to the industry, is that ultimately sellers may decide that they can simply put their house on an auction site, set a reserve that they can live with, and sell it online. So CAR is doing their best to not only keep an eye on this, but really pay attention to what the auction companies are doing to see if there's any remedy. Yeah, Carrie.
Google just do it.
They did $50 million to auction.com. Google. And more of the big companies are considering doing this as well because they see the opportunity. So that's all I have. I'd like to ask Carl Lee to come up and regale you for a few minutes with a few things from NAR. Carl?
Thanks, Barbara. First, a couple of announcements. This is probably the largest turnout I've seen at one of our general membership meetings. So if it gets too crowded, just want to let you know, we've actually set up upstairs in our training room a simulcast. So you see the camera, we're actually videotaping on, actually streaming right online, live, online, as well as upstairs. So if it gets too crowded here and you want to find a little extra space, feel free to go up there. Second thing, just a quick announcement. Wanted to let you guys know who we can endorse for some of the races that in our sphere of influence. You should have already gotten emails with who SCORE has endorsed in terms of candidates. So I'll just run through this real quickly. And actually, before I get to that, if you've done the absentee ballot or you plan to do that and you have not mailed it, don't mail it because they won't get it in time. What you need to do is to go to a polling site and drop it off. And you can find those sites on sccvote.org. So SCC, Santa Clara County, vote.org. In terms of who SCORE has endorsed, for Congress, District 17, Mike Honda. For State Assembly, District 25, which is Milpitas and Fremont, so it covers part of our territory, so if you're in that area, Armando Gomez. And for District 28, which is primarily West San Jose, Evan Lowe. And for San Jose City Council, District 1, which is again West San Jose, Chappie Jones. Charles, his nickname is Chappie, sorry. But on the ballot is probably Charles Jones. District 3, which is downtown, Don Gagliardi. District 5, which is East San Jose, Magdalena Carrasco. District 9, Cambrian, Don Rocha. And just to give you we have a committee that interviews all the candidates. And we look for their openness to work with us, have a dialogue, but also their positions for what we stand for. Private property rights, business, so on. Okay. I think that's all the announcements, right, Anil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get out the vote.
I'm sorry?
Get out the vote.
Get out the vote. So in terms of the NAR report, just a quick little background. In addition to myself, we have 2 other NAR directors representing SCORE. One is Dave Walsh. Most of you guys know him. He usually does the NAR report. Unfortunately, he had a conflict today. And the other one is Carl San Miguel. You guys already met. So we go up there and we go to the NAR meetings, we go to the board of directors meetings, and we vote representing you guys. The other thing for Washington, so we just got back from Washington, D.C. 2 weeks ago. It's also, how many of you have gone to Ledge Day at the state? Okay. So our trip to Washington, D.C. in May is the federal or national version of our Ledge Day. That those of you that went, it was just like a month ago. So it's the same thing, we go up and we visit our legislators. So that's kind of what our responsibility is when we go. We go to committee meetings, we have votes of the board of directors, and then we deal with some of the national legislative issues. So I'm going to try to give you some highlights, and back up a step. I wanted to bring up Carl and Dave because the notes that I have, it's a compilation of all three of our notes, so they all contributed to this report. So I kind of broke down this report into three areas. The first is I want to go over some of the high level, what I thought was relevant to us in terms of the motions that were passed or policies that were passed by the NAR directors. The second is to share with you the key issues that we talked to our congressional representatives when we had our visits there. And then the last part is just kind of random notes, because there's a lot of meetings crammed into one week. It seemed like it was one day, long day. So I'm going to give you some random information about some of our legislative issues, as well as some economic reports, because we get an economic report from the chief economist, and there's some other reports. Right. So very quickly, just to highlight, there was three policies that were passed that I think is relevant to us. The first came out of the Professional Standards Committee, and it's actually to allow a pilot program that CAR launched, I think earlier this year. And that's the pilot program is to allow us to publish the names and photographs of code of ethics violators on a broader basis. Okay. So it's something that has been allowed, but it's got some very restrictive rules in terms of what those violations have to meet before we can publish them. So what was passed by NAR, it will allow us, for the state, to be able to use a little more broader rules so violators can get published, so we know them. The second one, it came out of the Federal Taxation Committee. There was a FERPTA task force. Does everybody know what FERPTA is? Anybody not know what FERPTA is? Okay. So there was a number of things in this report, and basically what was passed by NAR is they accepted and support everything that came out of the task force. And kind of the main thing out of it is to expand, I guess, the rules. And what the task force recommended is that right now there are some tax implications if it is a foreign resident, right? So what we want to do, what we hope to push is to allow the same rules that we have for U.S. residents apply to foreign, because there's it restricts a lot of foreign investment in terms of our real estate market. So it's looking for a more expansive rule in that. Carl, did I miss anything else there?
No.
Okay. And then the third thing I'll highlight is out of the leadership team at NAR, there was a proposal to create a mandatory core standards for associations, like SCORE, some of our neighboring associations, in the following areas. Code of ethics, professional standards. I won't get into the details, I just want to kind of give you a flavor. So there's some core standards that every association has to meet in order to exist and maintain their charter with NAR. And the areas for the core standards are code of ethics, professional standards, process. So how quickly we turn things around when there's a complaint. Advocacy, so that's kind of the red alerts. It's raising contributions for some of our political efforts. Consumer outreach and support. I call it support, but it's things like having legal counsel, having a strategic plan for our organization, and having professional development standards for all of our staff, technology, and financial solvency. For us as SCORE, it's actually a no-brainer because we do all of that right now, and we do it probably more effectively than many other associations. But there are some impact, and it was a little controversial, but it did pass as a motion. It is somewhat controversial because some smaller associations around the country don't have all of these resources to do this. Any questions on any of that so far? Okay. And then in terms of our field visits, unfortunately, we have two, I forget what we call you guys, Carl. FPCs, Federal Political Coordinators. I'm not one, so I don't know who it is. But Carl is our coordinator to Mike Honda's office, and Dave is our coordinator to Zoe Lofgren's office. Unfortunately, they had committee conflicts this time. So our delegation this time went and visited The staff, or the House of Representatives actually in recess, and they're back here, unfortunately, this year. It's the first time that they haven't been went out. But in visiting the staff, we had our current president, Myron, and our president-elect, Craig Gorman. So they were part of our delegation to go talk to the staff. So the key issues that we talked to our representatives up there. The first one is to preserve the mission and purpose of FHA. The federal, everybody knows what FHA is, right? So it has the tools and policy in place to meet its mission. So we want FHA to have the tools and policies in place to meet its mission to provide access to safe, affordable mortgage financing to qualified homeowners, borrowers nationwide, without imposing burdensome limitations. How many of you are working with FHA clients right now? I know it's a challenge in our market in terms of the market dynamics, but the market will change, and you will be working with FHA programs. There's a couple of things going on or being discussed in Congress. There's a House, a representative proposal 2767 called the PATH Act. So you might have heard some information about the PATH Act. We're opposed to that because it alters and reduces the role of FHA, and it's going to curtail the homeownership opportunities for millions of qualified Americans. It's trying to reform FHA so it basically becomes a first-time buyer program only. So that's going to eliminate a lot of other potential borrowers for that. There's also, out of this, there may be other impacts on down payment and how FHA works. We also talked about, in terms of FHA, to support Senate Bill 1376, and it's commonly called FHA Solvency Act. One of the issues right now is FHA as a program, because of market conditions, wasn't really doing well financially. This act would add additional tools to FHA so they can better manage the risk and protect taxpayer funds that goes into the program. The second thing we talked to our Congress people is to preserve real estate related tax policies. There's a lot of discussions, I'm sure you guys have heard, about mortgage interest deductions and threats along that area. And there's actually 4 areas. It's the mortgage interest deduction, property tax deduction, mortgage debt forgiveness tax relief, and like-kind exchanges, 1031 exchanges. All of these things are being discussed in meetings at Congress in terms of looking from a budget standpoint. And as one example, there is a proposal. It's something that's moving very quickly this year. It's a draft right now, and it's from David Camp, Congressman David Camp, who is the chairman of the House's Ways and Means Committee. So it's a very powerful committee. And the name it's been given is a Tax Reform Act of 2014. It would repeal a number of these deductions, including the exchange that I was talking about, 1031 exchange. So when we talk to our representatives, part of the proposal out of the Camp draft is limiting MID, mortgage interest deductions, to $500,000. Okay. For some other parts of the country, it may not be a big deal, but that's below what our average and median prices are here. Let me see. So that's kind of give you a highlight of that. Later on, when I kind of give you a survey of notes, I'll give you a flavor of why this is going to be a challenge for us. The third issue we talked to our congressional offices about is reform the secondary mortgage market to provide certainty in U.S. housing markets. And this is about, everybody understands Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and the secondary market. So the secondary market kind of gives us a support and kind of what has actually helped our housing market historically, because we have kind of a backup. It stimulates the mortgage market and keeps the interest rates low. So one of the issues that they're looking at is completely reforming Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and restructuring the secondary market completely. So we asked our congressional representatives to enact housing finance reform that will ensure that the government participation in the secondary market is still there, that the safeguard the availability of long-term fixed-rate mortgage products like 30-year fix, and encourage private capital to return, because right now investors are not jumping in the secondary market, and provide consumers in all markets with access to affordable mortgage credit under all economic conditions. So whatever changes that they might do, any restructuring, we want to make sure that these key components are still there. But it's going to be an uphill battle. The other thing is, it's just more of an update. Many of you probably got or saw the red alerts over the last year or two regarding flood insurance, and many of you, I'm sure, are dealing with flood insurance issues. So from your efforts, FEMA has actually responded pretty well to NER's input, so things are going well, but it's not a permanent right now, so we need to keep the pressure on. So if you do see those red alerts later on, please let us know. Before I go further, I wanted to introduce Chris Gosselin, who's our representative from NAR. So did I miss anything on any of the political stuff?
I think you covered it well.
Okay, thank you. And then to give you kind of a landscape. So this is a lot of notes. I'm just going to randomly read them off to you. But I think you'll get a flavor in terms of what the political climate is. And then I'll do the same in terms of our economic report. And then to give you a sense, when you go to D.C., if you ever get a chance, I know it's a long way to go, but if you ever get a chance to go there, the quality of speakers are really, really up. For example, we had speaking to us David Plouffe, I think is how you pronounce it, who was a senior campaign manager for President Obama. We had Chris Matthews. I don't think I need to introduce, everybody knows who Chris Matthews is. We had Sean Donovan, who was I say was because I think he just got a different position, but at the time, 2 weeks ago, he was the HUD secretary. Okay. So, give you a flavor, there's probably not much going to happen in Congress this year. It's a re-election year. All the reforms that I was talking about, the tax reforms, probably nothing's going to happen until early 2015. But be ready for it, because when it starts to happen, we need to really put the pressure on. The economy continues to struggle to get traction. People over $100,000 in income are buying things again, but people under $50,000 are not much better than they were during the recession. Legislators are looking at everything through the lens of how does this affect the deficit. That's why all these things are in danger, because we're looking at how it affects the budget, the deficit, all of that. Most members of Congress are not from San Francisco or Silicon Valley. They're from towns like Buffalo, where housing values are significantly lower. So they don't have a concept of what issues we're dealing with. We're in danger of losing all housing tax benefits. There will be a greater impact of losing property tax, property local sales, and taxes for a mortgage tax. State income tax deduction enable most taxpayers to make it very close to minimum threshold necessary to file your itemized deductions, your Schedule A. And the increase of standard deductions will be eliminated, an element of all tax reform proposals, because it benefits lower income taxpayers and is popular with the legislature. Many members of Congress think these benefits are just closing a loophole instead of helping spur economic activity and solidifying communities. And then to some of the economic information. So the first part are notes from the presentation from Dr. Lawrence Yun, who's NAR's chief economist. The U.S. population is growing, and this, hopefully when you put this all together, you'll get an idea of what's happening and maybe what applies to our market. The U.S. population is growing steadily by 2 to 3 million people every year. It's currently at 315 million people. The jobs to population ratio is about 59%. The peak was 64% in 1999. We're hearing about a job recovery, but half of Americans still feel like we are in a recession. Main Street's not feeling the recovery. From 1992 to 2006, we had 14 consecutive years of housing expansion in terms of number of units. Since 2010, we've had 4 years of expansion, so we're in the middle of a 4-year. This might end this year, is what he's forecasting. It could be the shortest recovery in the history of recoveries, and it's not reflective of prices. Prices are continuing to rise, but in terms of units, it may end this year. And in terms of what's causing that slowdown, part of it doesn't affect us. It's back east. They've had a really bad winter. For us, and I think a lot of us can identify with this lack of inventory. Inventory is steadily returning to the market, but home prices rose too fast, and we're still seeing mortgage credit difficulties. It's funny that Barbara, when she was giving her report and talked about the wood destroying pest form going away, I don't know how many of you, I had 2 yesterday. They wanted to see the seller property questionnaire. You guys are filling that. I think that's starting to happen. So, anything you check off. Mortgage rates jumped, although I think recently it's kind of come down, but it's kind of jumped up. Cost of construction is rising faster than CPI, and there's a labor shortage for construction work. And then this I thought was interesting. So the price moderation that's beginning to settle in. Right now, 1/3 of homeowners have no mortgage, all equity. 1/3 have a 4.3% interest rate or lower, and 1/3 have a higher rate. So in terms of motivation to stay where they are, that's 2/3 of the market, or homeowners. Housing may not get back to normal in a hurry. We know people would still move in an 18% interest rate environment, for those of you that were involved in this business in the 80s and early 90s. There are many new landlords taking advantage of rising rents while their mortgage rates are low. And only 10% of realtors are reporting declining rents nationwide. So pretty much around the country, rents are going up. There's clearly a new construction housing shortage. We need nationally about 1.7 million new homes to be built every year. We're building about 400,000 single-family homes in the country. If you add PUDs and multifamily and all of that, you're looking at 720,000. So we're still well below the 1.7 million every year. Monetary policy. There's likely to be a rate hike in the first quarter of 2015. That's what Dr. Yoon is forecasting. And rates will start to move towards the 6.5% level. That's what he believes we'll see. China has an 8% GDP growth rate. The U.S. right now is currently around 3%. And China may become the #1 foreign buyer of U.S. property. I think we're already there. May become the #1 foreign buyer of U.S. properties in the near future. Currently, Canada is. I didn't know that. The U.S. dollar is also shrinking compared to the won. And I think that's pretty much from Lawrence's report. We had a speaker also in the economic forum. His name is Eric Belsky. He's from the Joint Center of Housing Studies at Harvard University. So here's some of his information that I thought was kind of interesting. The Federal Reserve Chairman is still pointing out in her reports to Congress that the housing market is underperforming. I think that relates back to the construction comments earlier. Nearly 3 million more adults in their 20s and early 30s live in their parents' home in 2012 than in 2007. So, anyway, I think I got to end my report here. Any questions? So I think you got to have a sense of where things might be going in our market. And I think next we have Quincy Virgilio, who's past board president, but also chairman of MLS Listings.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. This thing on? Okay, I'm supposed to press a button.
I know the screen fell asleep. I know just one or two of you did too. It's exciting stuff. You know what you have to ask yourself is how do you use this information that Carl and Barbara are giving you when you're talking with your clients and your sphere of influence. And that's probably the most important thing you should take from this is how do I use that information in my conversations. One of the fortunate things of being a volunteer, and fortunate I say for me, is that we get to see and hear a lot of information that gives, I think, a little edge when we're talking to our clients about those of us who are not in this meeting or streaming online. Anyway, okay, we're there, and I got it. Okay, I can follow instructions. I have this one. Chrome does that one. Okay, I'm here to talk to you about the MLS listings today. Thank you. I have an assistant. Of course, I'm serving as your chairman this year, and probably for the next 4 or 5 years, I think. Not sure. Depends who else steps up quicker. Okay, I'll make this short and sweet. This is the exciting stuff. I'm going to talk today about these 5 topics: the mandatory MLS listings training that is out there now, the off MLS if it's still an issue, and what we're up to at MLS listings, as well as 2 other new initiatives that are coming about. So, for those of you who do not know, most of you here are members that are in good standing, but if you are a new member, a new subscriber to MLS listings, there's now mandatory training in your first 90 days, 90 days? 60 days. 60 days that you have to take to understand how to use the MLS. This is twofold. 1, to make sure that you know what you're doing, and 2, to better understand what your MLS offers you, because most of us probably see 5 or 6% of what's available in your MLS. Anybody know what find is, by the way, in your MLS? Find? Who knows what find is? F-I-N-D. How many have it? 1, 2, 3, 8 of us. All right, cool. It's probably one of the most comprehensive big data tools inside your MLS that you get included in your dues. And if you don't know what it is, go to your Pro homepage on the right-hand side. It'll say F-I-N-D. It'll give you information on every property in the United States. Every property, whether it's for sale or not. So, something to think about. Okay, so it's a 3-hour course. You must attend within the first 60 days, or if you do not, your MLS will be turned off. The course is offered 9 times a month. It's going to be not only at the training center, but I think we're going to do a road show too, right, Myra?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. So we come around to your association shortly. Our off MLS by the numbers, we're going to go through the count of amount of transactions that are closing that are not making it to the MLS. Pocket listings, everyone familiar with that? Has anybody been involved in that? Don't raise your hand, right? Yeah. Well, I know it happens out there, and really what we're looking at is a couple of things from the MLS standpoint. 1, the off MLS activity, the private clubs that are out there. We're worried about the integrity of the data that we use to be able to represent our clients. We're not trying to deter anyone's business models, how you do your business or how other people do their business. We want the data so that we can, intelligently comp properties around them when you have a listing or you're working with a buyer. So going around the county, you can see how, going around the 5 counties, you can see how the off-listing activity continues to increase. This is just the first quarter, so those are years. You're seeing Q1 2014 is not letting up. This is sales by volume. You can see again the amount of real estate that's closing outside of our MLS. So that's just the first quarter, so we're on track for another $4 billion plus a year. When you compare the pricing for properties that close off MLS versus on the MLS, meaning that your property gets exposed to all of us, to all of the public, I didn't hear myself. You can see that the price differential is significant. So you think I'm colorblind, so I think it's the green bar is the one that's on MLS. And you can see that there's a significant price difference when you put your property on that multiple listing service versus. Is this not working right? Okay. So a lot of us are familiar with the private clubs that are out there. The Producers Forum, everybody know Producers Forum, TAN, Agent Network. We are looking at how we market our properties to ourselves, and we have what we consider the largest private club around. So we have a club that has only qualified licensed brokers and agents, that matches buyers and sellers, that does not require your listings to post to the internet, and it provides extensive pre-marketing to thousands of buyers' agents. This allows you to test the accuracy of your pricing, and it requires club members to comply with NAR and CAR club rules and regulations. It also provides commission dispute arbitration, which none of the private networks do. So do you belong to that club? Yes, you do. What's it called? Yeah, it's called us, MLS Listings. We're calling it the newest and largest because we're coming up with a status that's going to be called Coming Soon. So the Coming Soon status is where you're going to be able to pre-market your properties. Now, if you go back to the club, you know that you can opt out on your listings for syndication. So it's not you have to opt in every time you go listing. You have to opt in to syndicate your listings. Does everyone know what syndicate your listings means? Yeah. So if you don't want them to go, if your client, part of the argument for private networks is that clients want privacy. They don't want their house on out there on the internet. They don't want to live with their photos and everything else. They want their privacy. So if you don't want that to happen, you have to opt in if you want it to happen or not. So it's a private club, really, right? You have to be careful of one thing. If your brokerage syndicates, so you have to talk to your brokerage. Okay, Coming Soon is coming. The Coming Soon status is coming out in the new version of Matrix.
Well, I kind of told them.
Thanks. I look at Myra because she knows everything about this. They just give me notes. And that Coming Soon status allows you to market properties to our fellow realtors for up to 30 days.
Oh yeah, you got to mix it up a little bit.
Go live. You have no days on market. You're not hurt on a days on market basis. It's a way to test the market and see what's going on. Now, there's a lot of discussion about this is market driven, so we're tight on inventory now. Will this change? No, it will not. It's a business practice. So the digital exclusion form, you file it the same way you do now. Your exclusion form you're filing now when you're not listening to the first 72 hours.
Is Carl going to be doing it?
And then the beta will start in June. The official one will come in September. Okay, information from Southern California. We announced at the. Is it me? I keep hearing I can stop. What it is, it's a timing device. It says. I did work for Carl. Oh, the battery went dead. That's what Carl did. Carl, you ruined the battery. Now for my next trick. Yes, it works. Humor's everything. Okay, so we announced in the CAR meetings in May that MLS Listings has gone to a cooperative alliance with the Southern California CRMLS. Anyone familiar with CRMLS? Largest MLS in the nation, 72,000 subscribers, 40,000 listings. We are now going to have a data share for both going back and forth. We're going to see their data, they're going to see our data, and you can expose your clients to all of the listings that are in Southern California and around the rest of the country, or the rest of the state. And we're, of course, trying to make this work so that we can become a statewide database. This is really a statewide MLS, a statewide database. So that's happening. It should be coming up in the next few months. We're doing all of our mapping data to make that work. Any questions? Good. Yeah. Okay, so the real exciting stuff's coming, I believe. Because we have. Am I getting out of this thing? Am I supposed to set it up for the next person? Self-destruct button? That's fine, okay. All right, well, if you have no questions, you can always email somebody at MLS Listings or email me. Carl is going to now bring you the economic update, and he is the moderator. Carl, someone else has to set us up. Thank you very much.
Actually, you guys hear me? Is this?
No, not really.
Okay. So the next segment of our program is our panel, and I'm sure that's what most of you are here to hear. And I think this is really important for us as realtors to hear what's happening in some of the cities that we work with, so you know what you have information for your clients, what's happening, and where some of the development might be happening. So with that, let me introduce our panel. And hang on.
Oh, we got it.
I'm going to call them up, and then after they're all up here, I'll let them tell you a little bit about themselves. First, we have Nancy Klein, who's the Deputy Director of Economic Development at the City of San Jose.
Little icons on the desktop.
Next, we have Kevin Riley, who's the Director of Planning and Inspection at the City of Santa Clara.
Monitor.
Sorry, I'm on the wrong.
Something different.
And last but not least, we have Sue Martin, who's the Planning Director.
Because. Did you have to choose?
If you can just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Like hitting you, he said.
Nancy Klein, Economic Development, and I'm also the Director of Real Estate for the City of San Jose. And I just want to start out with a bit of gratitude. One, you guys do an incredibly important thing for our community, and living and how people take advantage of and really enjoy their lives in our area is really important. So thank you. And to you, Enterprise, for lots of information said, of which there's going to be more. So thank you.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Riley. I'm the Planning Director for the City of Santa Clara. I've been with the city since 1984. Actually, my room staff was still the city manager at the time I came on. So I've been doing it for a while there. Became the director in 2005. So I've seen a lot of development, and I really enjoy working in that community. And we're pretty much a built-out community. We'll talk about that a little bit.
Good morning. I'm Sue Martin. I'm with the City of Gilroy. I'm the planning manager there. I'm actually the newbie on the block, so I'm a little outgunned here. I've been with Gilroy since July 1st of last year, so not quite a year even. It's been a great learning curve for me. I came from Southern California, so all the Northern California stuff is new and very exciting for me. And anyway, we still have a lot of stuff happening in Gilroy. It's a good time for us.
I think we have a second one. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. And we picked representatives from these three cities for two reasons. There's a lot of stuff going on in San Jose and Santa Clara, and if you drive down to Gilroy, there's a lot of development happening down in Gilroy as well. So to kind of get our conversation started, and, Nancy Klein,
FYI, you're getting other voices on the
San Jose strategy and
other voices can do the presentation.
Okay. Actually, what I was going to do, and Anil, if you're here, we can queue up a couple of slides, which you probably have too many slides already. But there is one slide in particular. I was going to give you the economic base of our area, and the national information to the. Here we go, to our regional area. So let me just really, because you've had too many slides, but there is an item on housing that is pretty interesting, and I'm loud, so I don't really need that, I don't think. Nation's growth in general is outpacing the growth in jobs, 2.5, 2.6% to less than 0.5% in growth in jobs. Our area totally kicks that number's butt. Where we are doing a lot more jobs in general and such a demand for housing. Once you see here, these are the jobs numbers, though, regionally. And this just tells you, oh, it is, some people can't hear. Okay, I always get told I'm pretty loud. The metro growth, as you're seeing here, is recovering a great deal more. And then in our area, we have regained all the jobs lost from the recession. Now, that's a very interesting fact that Clara's probably our best. But this is very important to housing and where some of the demand comes. Manufacturing is growing in our area. One of the few areas I want you to know, the Silicon Valley, San Jose metro area is the highest manufacturing area in the nation. Folks don't really know that, but the reason for it is all about what people say NPI, new product introduction. And what you have are a bunch of manufacturers, the 10 largest contract manufacturers in the world, 6 of them are in San Jose, the rest are right outside borders, like in Santa Clara and in Milpitas, because people think through how to make a product and then run test runs. And you have to have the engineers really close by to be doing all of that. So manufacturing and all the other jobs, and not all of those jobs have to be college educated to make a good living. Those are some really important things. The trend there about local unemployment, though, is still, we are struggling. Unemployment is still not translating. So the numbers that you heard Carl speak to, our area is
We had 26
San
already.
Jose has finally reached
I have to go.
about what the nation is. Others of our areas have unemployment that goes below the national. Now this is nice. In our area, consumers sales grew 5%. So the other rest of the nation is struggling. You're not going to find the same sort of growth. And then this gives us an edge, but our housing prices are so high. And then you can see this is a little bit about vacancy rates, which I'm probably not as high interested in. I'll blow right by that. But here's a few things about home income prices. As you know, prices have gone up, and that's good in some ways for everybody in the room, but it has some downsides, right?
Was that only focused on?
And then I just want to leave you with a little bit of tantalizing
you to know exactly
data. That may come at things from a different, slightly point of view than you do, but it's something for us all to think about. Housing growth. The new formation of households is coming from those older than 55. New formation is not coming from the 20-year-olds.
Pressure.
Such a smaller population. And then the demographic is a lot of those folks are looking for density. They're looking for homes that are in with many other activities. We're not looking for single family. So we have to think as cities about what kind of product we're building, what kind of audio, video experts who are buying, and then we have to think about costs. Now this might not occur, but from a city's point of view, single family homes don't yield near the revenue back to the city that multifamily.
Full advantage of the camera.
And the cost in providing services is a real struggle. So in San Jose, and now get to Carl's question, we have a general plan that is a fantastic general plan, focuses on amenities, talks about housing along urban cores of transit. That really places a premium on density because we want to build great places.
Well, yeah, exactly. But at least we know.
But for the first time, our general plan puts the number of housing units. So it sets the number of housing units.
This
you
is
can't
real
just add a
time.
housing unit, and if you want to change a place that hasn't been designated for housing, you need to take the units from someplace else.
Yeah.
So that has some interesting impacts for property owners. But at the same time, we have well over 150,000 units in carrying capacity.
It's almost like you should just
Plenty of room to build in our 182 square mile city.
The symbol is pushing 1, 2, 3. And
Yeah.
Thanks, and Nancy, thanks for the big overview. It's good. I think, as I said, Santa Clara is in a position where we essentially are a built-out city. So our strategy deals with infill development everywhere. We've got fixed borders, San Jose, Sunnyvale, Cupertino, surrounding us. So we're not growing out anywhere. We have no greenfield to build new single-family homes. Essentially, everything that we build is infill and, for the most part, density. For sale housing is not the hot market in a city like Santa Clara today. We do have a few builders who are doing that, mostly condominium style, small townhouses, that kind of thing. But our housing stock that we have, single-family homes, is to be protected. That's been part of our general plan for a long time. And, we do anticipate that, there's turnover there. And new families, formation of new households in some of the denser projects. And, what a city wants to see is that housing stock that we have of single-family homes being protected, being renovated, being used by a new set of families over the period of time that they'll have it and pass it on to someone else. So we want to perpetuate that. But the infill that we do, the strategy is to find the opportunity site. For us today, that means much of El Camino corridor, It's one of those places where we've still got 1964 development there from the commercial that we have. And while the council doesn't want to lose any commercial and retail that we have, the strategy for dealing with that is a little bit different today. We'll try to concentrate the commercial that we do rebuild in good locations with density there. We are such a low density city today with the single family homes we have that we need more density just to be able to attract retailers. So mixing the use along El Camino, finding some real concentrations is what we're trying to do. At the same time, we've got to be sensitive to the single family homes that sit right behind the El Camino on either side for us. So that's an important part of what we do. And then, we've got other places where we are looking at new residential housing that would be closer to the jobs. And when you look at what we've done over the years, when I was still the principal planner back in 2004, then Director Jeff Bitfeld and I worked for the council to set up a policy that was no conversion of industrial land to residential. And they just didn't want to see any of that. Industrial land was valuable. 2005, things looked very good. By end of 2008, the economy started falling apart, things changed. A lot of the production we had in the industrial area went away. We had a limbo period here for a while. And we did our general plan in 2010. We looked at 2010 to 2016 as being a recovery phase. And so we started recovering during that time. It's obviously going very well right now in the rental market. And so we actually defined a few places within the industrial areas where we could put housing. So we're pursuing some of those today. Those again bring in housing. Most of it will probably be rental, but there could be some ownership in there. They'll be closer to the job centers. And with all the industrial acreage we have, moving away from the production that we had, this relatively low intensity industrial use, 0.4 FAR kind of development, 1- to 2-story tilt-up buildings. We now go to office R&D, 1.2, 1.0 FARs, substantially more office R&D kind of development. So we're able to take the same amount of land, put more commercial on it, and put some residential on it, with housing and jobs closer together. So we're really looking at infill strategically along transit corridors and close to the jobs.
Kevin, can you define the FAR?
I'm sorry, floor area ratio is the amount of building to land. So if you have a 4-story building that covers a quarter of the land, you have 1.0.
Sue?
Thank you. Gilroy is in a little different place than Santa Clara. We actually are struggling with developers to kind of do more infill because everyone wants to expand outward. So we have a little different challenge, and I think we have a lot of the folks who are trying to get the higher prices up in the Santa Clara area and Santa Bay area to do the commute from Gilroy and the Morgan Hill area. So that's traffic that I drove through this morning. So our challenge is a little different. We actually would like to see more of the higher density. We kind of recognize that our community is very top-heavy in single-family homes, which is great because I think the people who maybe couldn't afford in these other jurisdictions are, coming down to Gilroy to buy single-family homes. But at the same time, the people who, can't buy single-family homes in our areas, they're still out of the market in our own area. So we kind of see the need for some ownership-type units, higher density, and what we've done in our last housing element update, which was adopted and certified by the state in 2012, was that we rezoned a few parcels that we saw as great potential to a higher density, and to try to encourage a higher density. I think a minimum of 20, which isn't very high compared to San Jose and Santa Clara standards, but for Gilroy it is, but we have predominantly single family. So we actually have a minimum density in those zones. It's the R4 zone, and the minimum is 20 units per acre. And we're struggling to get developers to provide that. They still want to do less because right now it really just fits better with our community. So for us it's a newer concept, but it's the right move. And we also see a lot of potential in our downtown area, where, and maybe we'll get later with the high-speed rail, but we're hoping that we do have some higher density, either apartments or ownership type units come in to complement that area. So that's kind of where we're at. As far as during the recession, we were kind of fortunate to have the outlets there to help the city survive for that. And we're just coming out of the recession, and I think they hired me starting July 1st to jump right in and get all the planning going, because I'm pretty sure as soon as I started, all the developers started knocking on our doors. So we do have a lot of interest in our city right now.
Just as a show of hands, how many of you are from South County or came up and did the same commute as Sue today? I know we have a few. And some, I think all of you actually touched a little bit on this next question. But what is specifically the biggest challenge that you see in terms of your growth strategy? And maybe start with Sue.
I think Nancy mentioned it. It's that we have a lot of single-family homes, like I said, and they don't cover the cost of the services that are needed, the utilities, the fixing, and all that kind of stuff. So that's our struggle. So if I had to pinpoint one thing, that's probably our biggest thing.
Kevin?
Well, again, when we talk about the kinds of things you guys are interested in the single-family home market, particularly, you don't have the land for it to say we're out of the city, so you're not going to see much of that. But then on top of that, I think in Santa Clara right now, the political climate, I think the neighborhood groups are really pressing council to scrutinize the kinds of improvements that are being done, second-story additions. Particularly, I think as Myron knows, the old quad is really sort of warmed up in terms of they're watching what is going on and really very concerned about things that they feel are intensifying too much. So that's a struggle that we have right now in terms of trying to really allow people to do some of the things they want to do with their homes, at least without going through a more difficult process. It's just getting a little bit harder right now.
In San Jose, we are blessed with our challenges, and that we think of them, as opportunities. So we're a little over 1 million people, you've probably heard. And the Association of Bay Area Government, which many of you probably have heard of, ABAG, projects that by 2030, San Jose will have just about 1.5 million people. So the growth, which we're on track for, by the way, is going to be very large. And how do we accommodate that? And looking at the demographics, which is the biggest part of our demographics for this whole area where Carl mentioned 2.3 million, is coming from live births from our own kids. So it's folks that we would like the amount, and I don't have it right on me, but the number of immigration has shrunk over time with various issues that we all struggle with in a way. So how do we accommodate that? And looking at the demographic trends about who those folks are and what kind of environments will create great retail and great business to accommodate. The other thing that San Jose really struggles with is that we are basically a bedroom community. We need more jobs. So how to strategically locate residential and office together so that we get more jobs. We will decrease commute patterns by being able to have people, hopefully, we'll get to come up, sounds like, to live close by, and or San Jose is really happy. We'll be having BART coming to San Jose in the first quarter of 2017. And then as well as we will have the bus rapid transit, which I think will be making it up. We hope Kevin's a great partner up through Santa Clara and up the peninsula, which will really help. These are the cool buses, the Google type with Wi-Fi, very clean, security, all that stuff. And we're looking at other transportation improvement that will make it easier to move around in our metropolis.
So Nancy, you talked about some of the transit-oriented development strategies, and you just talked about transportation. So we have to think from San Jose. Santa Clara, what's happening in terms of transit-oriented development? What kind of role does transit have in your strategy?
Well, again, I think as planners, we recognize the need to put the density housing in the right place in the again, it's always looking for the opportunity. Knowing that BART, assuming that BART someday make it to Santa Clara, to downtown, through downtown San Jose, we've got an area at our Caltrain station today, Santa Clara Caltrain, that is to be a higher density area. City of San Jose and Santa Clara worked together half a decade ago on a plan to put density and jobs and everything around that area that would be terminus of the BART in the South Bay. So we really did focus on that. I think at that point in time we thought it was 2016 or 2017 to get to Santa Clara. Now it's 2026, 27, 25. I don't believe it. Anyway, that would be great. But there, and then our El Camino, connects to that area. So where we can do density on El Camino, and we're talking density up to 50 units per acre in some of the projects that have been approved, probably not less than about 25 per acre. So at least from 3-story walk up to 4-story over a podium kind of residential construction. And then those areas that we've picked up in the outer areas, in the industrial areas that are conversions, those are probably all 50 units per acre. There's really a jump in there when you look at a developer's view of things. You can get up to 25, 29 units per acre in a certain product type. Then you sort of get a jump to close to 50 units to the acre where you start podium construction. So you don't really find anything much in the middle of that. So you're looking at product type and that changes. For our areas that have transit access or surrounding a transit area, transit station, you're going to see the higher density.
And I find it interesting, Kevin, you talked about, the assumption that some of these projects, BART extension and all that, it's hard to manage sometimes because there's it's a complex issue. Does it actually happen and when does it happen? It's a moving target. And Sue, I know you mentioned high-speed rail. Is that from a transit development? So it seemed like you touched on that earlier. Can you expound on that? And also maybe where do you see the possibility that high-speed rail will actually happen?
Well, we're working with the High-Speed Rail Authority right now, working on, I think, finalizing an agreement to, get that underway. So we see that as a high possibility, actually. Maybe probably sooner than the BART coming through San Jose, maybe. Well, no. Okay, well, at least the planning efforts will be. So. We're trying to align our efforts in working with the high-speed rail with our current efforts on our general plan. We have a pretty quick turnaround on our general plan process. We're about 6 or 7 months into a 30-month process. So we're meeting pretty regularly with our general plan advisory committee, the GPAC, and getting their input and presenting their findings and suggestions and recommendations to our planning commission and city council. And we're hoping that and downtown is very important to our city council. The overall quality of life for the entire city is, and downtown is something I think that has been a struggle for quite a while. And so they're really focused on that. They want to bring in a lot of amenities. They want to try to bring in the retailers, and they want to bring in density, high density living to kind of revitalize that area. And they recognize that that is something that's needed. In fact, we do have one proposal. It's not in the core. It's closed. It's off 10th Street that we're looking at. And I'm already getting a lot of inquiries because it's a different project. They're not used to a 5-story, building in downtown Gilroy. So I think it'll be great from the planner's perspective. I think it's in the right location. And I'm actually very excited about it. But what our decision makers and our public think about it might be different because of our community makeup. So that's something that interests me as a planner.
Just to pop in one thing, so San Jose's life's blood, right, depends on the transit. So we know and are working day to day and tell you that BART to Berryessa and Milpitas is ahead of schedule and under budget for right now, right? So first quarter 2017, I can tell you behind the scenes that 2 things are happening, which also very much fits with the great governmental coverage the association is giving you. The pre-work for environmental that's required CEQA has already begun for the connection through downtown to Santa Clara. And the funding is beginning to line up. You will see on the ballot in November, most likely, something that the Silicon Valley Leadership Group is working on that will include a quarter-cent sales tax. Please vote for that, because it will definitely bring forward transportation improvements, much as we've had. And not only BART, but also highway transportation and also roadways, because there's so much going on in need on the roadways. But BART will be coming. It's important as an investment. And then high-speed rail, the first thing will happen, we believe, will be electrification, which will allow the trains to go much faster, so that you'll have run times from San Francisco to San Jose in the 35 to 40 minute period. So it'll be much better.
Without the commute, without the traffic. I mean,
Yeah.
let me switch a little bit of gears. I assume that encouraging developers to come in and build is an opportunity, but sometimes when they try to pencil in the numbers, it may be a little bit of a challenge. Are you seeing any of that challenges? And I'll start with Kevin here. Are you seeing any of the challenges from that perspective? And if so, what kind of incentives, whether it's actual incentives or what message are you trying to encourage them to do that kind of development in your city, in the projects that you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm not convinced that we need to give any incentives at all. The market is so hot for apartments right now, but that doesn't go on and on. And what I generally hear is the first thing to start to soften that market is whatever the interest rates are. That's what hurts the developers most. They project out their projects and try to figure out how the thing's going to pencil out. But we do have incentives, and one of those being that we have our own electric utility, our own water sewer utility, and we've got the lowest combined rates of those utilities anywhere in the Bay Area. So that alone is a little bit of an incentive for anybody who's going to build apartments and retain them and handle some of those costs.
I'm jealous.
So that's one thing that we do. Again, we've tried to encourage density along the corridor, so we pushed up the density allowances. Our general plan does contemplate, if you're building along the transit corridor, that proximity can give you a little bit of a bump in density. Some other things as well, if you do affordability, that's a bump in density, some other things. So we do try to provide some things like that. Right now, our parks fee is very low. I don't know if anybody around here has got one that's $15 per unit, but very low, and it's about to get changed. So there's some disincentive perhaps coming, but we're still going to be, I think, lower than anybody else.
Sure. Thank you, Judge. Sue?
I would concur in that I don't know that there's a real need for incentives. As far as fees, I don't know if we have lower fees. I'm still obviously learning all that stuff. But we do promote density in certain areas, like I mentioned earlier. There's also the state density bonus, which a lot of our applicants are kind of looking at to promote that, and we're willing and we have to work with them on that. But that's always a challenge, because one of the first things they want to get their whatever the gimmies is, they want to reduce their parking, which the state allows under that request. And that's very difficult because for Gilroy, we're actually still a very commuter reliant city. So it's very difficult for us to give that away, even though the state allows that. So we are constantly struggling with developers on that. But otherwise, as far as our, I know some cities have expedited processing and that kind of stuff. We've looked at our permit processing times, and for the size of our city with the limited staff we have, it's incredibly fast for how quickly we process permits. So I don't know what else we can do in that perspective. I was quite impressed when I started there to see that we can actually get projects through within the 6-month time frame or 4 months that we promised right up front. It's a little challenging for us, though, but we do that.
So for us on incentives in San Jose, really concur for basic housing types with my colleagues. We are working, and as you've seen, had with several high-rises going up. The only place other than San Francisco, all the way down to the peninsula, that you'll find high-rise housing. So those that are interested in building high-rise housing, we do work on incentives for those projects. On housing writ large, we have several areas in the city that have program-level environmental impact reports, so that the environmental work is already done and the zonings are in place. So we'll say save developers a lot of time and a lot of money, because often in EIR, depending, you go anywhere from 9 months to a year and a half, all depending on how that's done. And hopefully it's quicker and it's much cheaper. So those are the kinds of incentives as well as expedited permitting that we do.
And you guys have both all talked about permits, so I'm throwing you a curveball, it's not on your prepared questions. And you may, if you can't answer, that's fine. Can you give us a flavor of what's the number of permits or starts or that is currently in the pipeline?
San Jose's housing development has gone up 70% in the last year over year. So the number of units, we have 8,000 units in production in North San Jose alone. So we're seeing a boom town in terms of creation of units. So it's very, very positive.
Just to give a big picture and then talk about some specific numbers currently. As the city of Santa Clara has its boundaries and can't do anything outside of that. Back in 2000, we did the Rivermark project that some of you may know. That was our biggest contribution of housing all in one fell swoop over a few years. 3,400 housing units or so out there in a mix of densities. But that was, like I say, the big bump. Outside of that, it is these few projects that come along. We've got about 45,000 housing units in the city today. A little more than half of those are single-family homes. So, we are building a multifamily housing stock today. What we've got going right now, about maybe 1,200 housing units that are under construction or right about to go into construction. Overall, some others that have been online under construction should be occupied within the next year or so. Probably a total of about 2,200 housing units. And plans for a few more. We've got some other projects that are out there. We've got some of the areas that we looked at in the general plan for the 2015 horizon that we're working on the larger plans for today. Be another 4,000 housing units. And then if you've ever heard of the Levi Stadium and the related development near that, across the street from Levi Stadium, we're entertaining plans right now from the related companies. We're actually building, I think, about 20 million square feet back on top of the Hudson Yards in Manhattan. But they're looking at 215 acres, 230 acres on our golf course that could include more housing. Again, that would have to be multifamily high-rise. It would have to be elevated above the landfill platforms that we'll have up on above the landfill. So there's more opportunity in there as well.
I'm jealous of all the cool mixed-use type projects you guys have. We'll get there someday. I'm terrible with numbers, I'll admit that right up front. But in the short time I've been with Gilroy, I know that a lot of developments that were kind of on hold or waiting for the recession to open up. We've had two permits so far building out a portion of our two specific plans that we have. There's the Pecker Pass specific plan. I think there was about 160 small lot single family homes that were approved for that recently. And then the Glen Loma Ranch, the master subdivision map was approved with 5, I think, neighborhood pods with, I'm trying to remember, I think it's about 350 homes in that area. So that whole area along Santa Teresa, you'll start seeing development quite rapidly because tied to the Glen Loma Ranch, there's going to be a lot of roadway improvements along Santa Teresa to make sure all that traffic flows around it. And they're trying to tie it with school closing for the summer, and they're going to start construction the day after. they got to accommodate the Garlic Festival this year, so it doesn't impact that. So we have quite a few challenges with our construction with our new homes that we've already allowed. So there's more to come.
You guys did pretty good on my curveball. So here's your chance to be a PR person. If you were to pick one project that's in the process that you want us to promote and tell our clients, hey, this is the it place to be in Gilroy, Santa Clara, San Jose, where would it be?
I think the Glen Loma Ranch is a good example of how we hope that Gilroy is doing it right. it had a specific plan. It has really high quality details in it. So when you see that built out, I think that might be one of our pristine neighborhoods. I mean, we already have Eagle Ridge, which is really stellar as well. But as far as the up and coming ones, the ones you should look out for, I would look to Glen Loma. Hecker Pass is going to be great too because it's promoting preservation of the ag lands, which is very, very unique, I think, as far as the specific plan. But Glen Loma, the highlight there is that it really embraces the natural surroundings, and it ties into Christmas Hill Park, where the Garland Festival is, and it's going to have trails that are maintained by the homeowners there to ensure those connections are maintained and people can get across and through and enjoy the natural beauty of the area.
The question was, who's the builder?
Oh, yeah. The question was, who's the builder? I know Tim Police is the property owner right now, and we're working with them. Glen Loma Ranch Corporation, as far as I know.
Kevin?
I talk fast, can I do two?
Okay, I'll give you two.
We've got a lot of things going on. I wanted to highlight a couple. One is the Urban Company's Monticello project, which was just approved by council last meeting. And that is 800 housing units, essentially next to the Lawrence Caltrain station. That was a former industrial property, 4 industrial buildings on it. Conversion will go to 4 stories over, parking with commercial in the front, small market, some other amenities for it, and also provides amenities for the neighborhood. There really are no services for that neighborhood.
What's the name of it? I didn't get the name of it.
I'm sorry?
What's the name of the project?
Monticello is the name of it, by the Urban Company. The other one is property owned by Prudential, used to be Kaiser Santa Clara, down on Highway Boulevard, sits, among a lot of single-family homes and smaller apartment projects. That's got 550 apartment units and 2 wrap projects, parking in the middle, units on the outside, 5 stories, beautiful amenities on top of one of those buildings. And then the backside of it, D.R. Horton just purchased the rest of that land. It's a total of about 27 acres in that former Kaiser site. And they're going to do about 240 single-family, small lot, and townhome type developments for sale on the backside of that. And that backs up to the single-family that's back there and some of the other townhomes and apartments, lower density that are back there.
So Nancy, I think one's going to be a challenge for you, so I'll limit it to 2 as well.
One, I just want to say how important you are to us. We have over 320,000 units, single-family units in San Jose. So that's an opportunity for us to keep investing and reinvesting together as the time goes on. So thank you. The projects I think that I'll stick in are in the downtown. That we're currently with what's in process at about 6,000 units in the downtown, and we're in talks, see how much comes through, that will take us over the 10,000 mark, which again for retailers and adding rooftops, that we think are really important. And there's several of those, for example, Barry Swenson Builders, who has a great property by the church that is around St. James Park. That portion of that will be for sale, and all of our units are being condo mapped at the same time they probably are in the other city. So that there'll be more as the market continues. So that's a great opportunity. The downtown's up and coming. We've got 2 more high-rise towers, one of them looking at condos. So there'll be opportunities for sales directly and a lot more units in general. And then the other things that are really cool that you may know about, like communication skills, maybe we'll move it forward with a really unique set of properties. And the last around Hitachi, which has both Caltrain and BTA Light Rail, is 2,900 units on what was former IBM.
I have a question. Some units that have been built up in San Jose right around 10th Street that we've gone to see because they're on the market and all that, but we have found that they have very, very, very faulty construction. And, then they're in repair. People are already living there. People have left there because they're in faulty construction. I just want to be sure that the units that all of you are proposing to build that have good construction, that they're not going to come up 2 years after they're bought
that everything's leaking, that the pipes weren't put in right and all that?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. I think all of us are worried about that. And you generally have building codes that are really tough in all of our cities, and the state building code that ensures that you meet standards. And then there are times where you get some contractors who just aren't performing. So we're always really interested in hearing about that because we do have a very active code enforcement program. So, feel free, and thank you very much for that. I don't know, Kevin or
And I think we have time for one question. Okay, one question.
Do you, looking at the demographics of this room, is there any plans for retirement homes?
So the question is, let me read the question because we are broadcasting. So the question is, are there any plans for the retirement community?
There are, and in San Jose, and I'm guessing in my colleague city, there are definitely retirement homes of various flavors, some really interesting models, some as large as the villages that we're looking at, others that are not as large but with high amenities. So yes, I mean, as a demographic, paying attention to the household formation is really coming, and we don't want to lose the disposable income that people have earned here to be able to retain. Plus, we respect that families want to stay close to one another.
Just real quick, one of the projects we have is the Bayrek project, former UC Ag site down at Winchester and Stevens Creek. We were trying to put 165 senior housing units on that for a long time. So Jerry came along and needed the money that we had put away in redevelopment agencies for that project. So now we're trying to figure out how to get it moving. But that and other senior projects are always being looked at.
For Gilroy, I think our most well-known one is the Village Green project at Santa Teresa, just south of Hager Pass Road. There's multiple types of units that are available for seniors there. We have had some talks with others, nothing as far as an application at this point. And then before I forget, I think with the Village Green project, there was also a piece at the corner of Santa Teresa and Hager Pass where a future skilled nursing facility was anticipated. I'm not sure of the status of that, but that I think is still on the books. But there's no development that's come forward to build that at this point.
So we, as you can see from our speakers, we have a pretty diverse community in our county. And that's why we wanted to kind of give you a flavor of what's going on both ends of our county here. Please help join me in giving a hand to our speakers.
So they said one last question, but I'm going to use my presidential privilege to ask one more. Not a big thing, but in the real estate industry, we're really interested in resale products. That's really what we are all here and what we do on a daily basis. And so a lot of the projects that are being run through the cities now tend to be very high density and mostly for rent. What's your take, or what do you see, or is there anything that the cities are doing to try to encourage some resale type or for sale type developments rather than just only rentals?
So there are things we can control and there are things we can't control. And really that's a function of the finance markets. So we have in San Jose so many for sale units, and we're proud of that and we want to keep that. And we're very responsive to markets, to condo map, as we all say. But really that's a force of the financing markets and where they're jumping in or where they aren't. And you guys know as much about that probably as we do.
Yeah, again, we've got many.
It's off.
Turn it on.
We have many apartments out there, thousands of units that are mapped for condominiums, but the ownership retains them because the rental market is so good. But part of that is always exit strategy. If they ever decided to bail out, they could sell the units. But there's just many that are there. Our council does like for sale housing, whether it's multifamily or single.
I think most of ours is resale of single-family homes at this point. So I don't know what else to add to what my colleagues have already said.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys very, very much. Have a little token of our appreciation for you coming to our association.
Thank you. Very nice.
Kevin. And they have a warm place in my heart for Kevin. I've worked with him for a long time. This guy was brilliant with the Niner Stadium. It's why we have some guys just like him in there really working with us.
All right, on the count of three. 1, 2, 3. And one more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good seeing you.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
I think we have a video, I think, that we're doing that.
We do. Let me check that out, and I think you wanted to also acknowledge.
Yes, he snuck in a little earlier, and he's probably thinking he's not going to get called out on it, but a good friend of mine and a really great agent who I'm sure most of you have probably done a deal with one time or another because he sells a lot of stuff. Lawson Parker, 30 years in the business. And then, just a side note, when Quincy was up here talking about they were setting stuff up, I just found out that you guys most of you were out because in my February edition of our newsletter, I wrote specifically about Find. It is a very amazing tool that MLS has. So I'm going to test you the next meeting to see if you're reading my newsletters. They really push me on those deadlines. It's a lot of work. It's kind of fun. We're ready.
I was here in 1962.
more for the community than just selling houses and getting a commission here and there. We really do a lot. And, you know, hats off to all of you, for all of you who have supported it, for all of you that are there. I think we all owe each other a round of applause. And I think there's one more announcement. So I was told today there's a one-day sale at the store. They're going to honor all of the May and June advertisements that they have for May and June, and a 20% off on all gift baskets. So good day to visit the store while you're here. If you need anything, I would make a point of doing that and take advantage of that. And I think, is there anything else? I think with that, we are all good for the day. Go out and have a great time, make a great sale.